Welcome back in, everyone. Boys, we'll start. The Edmonton Oilers have sent out the statement. At this point, a lot of people know what this statement is. They're fully supporting Connor McDavid after his 3-game suspension. Justin, I know you have you at least have some opinions on this, and I'll just hand this over to you here shortly. For anyone that doesn't know this story, McDavid, 3-game suspension for a cross-check to the face of Connor Garland, the exact same length that Tyler Myers got for his cross-check to Evan Bouchard. We'll probably touch on comparing them maybe here in a bit. I don't know, but we're going to also get into the Metro Division, kind of a mid-season review later in the pod. But Justin, what's all your thoughts here on this whole McDavid Edmonton cross-check suspension situation?
I should have wrote down kind of like a good kind of flow to how I wanted to address this, but just because it kind of got so insane there after the suspension came out, and then kind of everything that followed. Like if you're like on Twitter and you see kind of fans' perspective, media that cover Edmonton's perspective and whatnot. So I guess I kind of just want to go with kind of how I feel and how I saw it. I didn't watch the game. I was in a hockey tournament this whole weekend, so I didn't see any of it until afterwards. First and foremost, the refs screwed this one up during the game. If you just call Garland for holding whatever he was doing to McDavid, probably nothing happens here. Does McDavid have to protect himself a little bit? Yes, but I think there's a better way to do it. I think you drop the mitts and you just kind of, go him. McDavid's done it before in junior. It didn't turn out well, but like other circumstances, he's younger. Like he's an adult now. He's a grown man. Like I think able to deal with it in that sort of way. Crushing a guy in the head. I mean, look back through the years. When has someone ever cross-checked someone in the head like that and not gotten suspended or gotten any sort of disciplinary action? Like a lot of people try to compare it to the Matthews on Dahlin, who only got 2 fair. And then they try to compare it to the cross-check McDavid took in the playoffs last year. Again, that's playoffs. Those things are weighted so differently. Like it's almost 3 times different, more or less.
Something around there.
Yeah, it's hard to tell when it's not written. Like it's not a written rule of what's weighted differently for suspension wise. And then you have a lot of like fans and media online that say McDavid should boycott doing NHL events, things like that. Like seriously, give me a break on this stuff. McDavid kind of got lucky to not be suspended for this game, if you're going to be honest, with that chicken wing to Johansson, who all these Oilers fans online are kind of like crying wolf. Johansson's still out with a concussion. For, you know what, that chicken wing, it looks harmless, but it's an elbow to the head, which is also most of the time a suspension. So McDavid has been suspended before, which I kind of forgot about. So the repeat offender thing, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I understand they had to give him and Myers about the same discipline. It was getting really annoying online for all the fans saying it's fine if McDavid does it because he's defending himself. So now what? So all the superstars, or who the NHL considers superstars, can cross-check guys in the head without suspension, then what's going to happen? You can't let these things go. It doesn't matter who it is. Like the rules apply to everybody. You say it all the time, like the letter of the law, Brock. This is what it is.
I'll maybe start there then. It's the NHL needs to properly define that letter of the law then. It is written. Either define it or tell the refs to properly enforce it, like at all times. I know there's a bunch of people saying there's no point calling a penalty because there's like 5 seconds left in the game. Okay, you don't have to necessarily call a penalty on the play. Blow the play dead. Like, you just blow the play dead as soon as that whole skirmish happens, or as soon as you see Garland like hook on to McDavid and not let him go, blow it dead. You don't have to call a penalty, face off in the zone, and you're giving the Oilers probably at that point at 15 to 10 seconds of chance time to try to do something. Like, Garland even actually went on record after talking to the media and admitted that he cheated. He's the best player in the world. What am I going to do? Let him go. I'm just going to bear hug him and hold him there because they were trying to tie the game. The fact that he said that, I think, pissed a lot of Oilers fans off because he straight up said, like, yeah, I intentionally did all that. So, like, it's just one again. It's either A, be fully write the letter of the law, black and white, none of this gray zone shit, and tell the refs to either properly enforce it or at least stick to a standard that just isn't followed at all throughout the league. You brought up the suspensions of like Matthews, and then the Timo Meier one, I think that was earlier this year, was a one gamer. Like, it's again, you can kind of say repeat offender. Yeah. The chicken wing probably came into effect here even too, making it a 3, like a bit of the reasoning, but there's no consistency with this league in terms of suspensions. It's like Timo Meier got 1, Matthews got 2 a few years ago. McDavid just got 3 for his. And like, you kind of look at those 3 and even the Tyler Myers one, Matthews and McDavid's cross checks kind of came from frustration of a bit of a skirmish with another player. Timo Myers and Tyler Myers' cross checks, they just came blatantly out of nowhere straight to the guy's face. Like, how are those two the same as what McDavid Matthews is, where it's more straight frustration? And that's how, again, I'm not saying it's right, that's how they did it, but that's how they took care of it. That's how they wanted to generate space for themselves going forward. Whereas the fact that the Timo Meier one is out there and it was a 1-game suspension just makes the league look bad, is all I really got to say. It's just, there's no consistency in the league. The league kind of looks bad, and I wouldn't be opposed to McDavid basically going to the league and saying, okay, you guys have to either eat the shit that you're taking online for the suspensions of being no consistency and all that, and also like come forth with a strict letter of the law. Like, this is how games are to be called at all times, like regardless of player. It's not this whole, yeah, well, there's time management, there's game management. No, it's letter of the law. That's how it's called. He either tells the league to do that, and if they don't want to do it, or if they kind of push back, he can easily just say, okay, I'm out. I'm not doing any media. I'm not promoting anything. Good luck promoting this Four Nations that's already just floundering trying to sell tickets. Like, he's the face of the NHL right now and has been for a while. And if he all of a sudden, like, the last few years, he's started to come out and show his personality to the media and just to fans more. Fans are attracted to that. If he pulls out, all of a sudden fans are just like, well, this isn't as fun anymore. McDavid actually can hold a lot of power here, and if he chooses to wield it, he can help shape the NHL. I honestly think if he gets some other big names on his side here with this, they can really push the NHL into a corner and make big changes going forward in the league. That's my opinion on that. But Trav, you got anything on this whole situation?
No, I think you guys have kind of got the point across pretty good. And I know we got a number of other teams that we're getting to here tonight. So yeah, I'll just leave that one alone.
Let's jump into that then. The Metropolitan. Last year, I know a lot of people nicknamed it the Midropolitan because he basically had 3 teams and then a bunch of just floundering teams. Honestly, is it any different this year, guys? I mean, Washington, New Jersey, and Carolina are 10 points or 8 points clear of the rest of the division in those top 3 spots. It's like Columbus, they're a fucking surprise in where they are and how they're doing. Pittsburgh and Philly are kind of just toiling away. The Islanders, I don't know what they're doing. But I kind of want to, we'll get to some of those other teams. I want to start with the Rangers here. We talked about them before Christmas. They've, since the turn of the calendar, they've kind of flipped the script a bit. They're like 6-1-4, I think, since January 1st. Brought themselves to within 2 points of a wild card spot. Are they finally starting to play like everyone thought they would, or is this maybe just one where they've hit a hot streak and their struggles can just come back at any point?
Well, the one thing about it that I think a lot of people were maybe overlooking was, they went on a pretty disappointing stretch the last couple months and things have looked anything but good over there, but they were never out of it. All they needed to do is just string together a few wins and they're right back there and looking in the playoffs. So they've found that here in their last, I don't know, 8 to 10 games. They've been a much better team, and now they're knocking on the door of a wild card again. Like, I was hearing things before, like, oh, it looks like the Rangers are selling, and looks like they're missing out on the playoffs this year. And don't get me wrong, the Eastern Conference has been out of whack this year, just super unpredictable, but nobody is, up until now, I would say Buffalo is getting into the area of being a definite no for the playoffs, but everybody else is in a position to ride a hot streak and ride that all the way into a top 3 Metro or a top 3 Atlantic spot.
Yeah, I think like a lot of that too, Brock, is like kind of like the big market effect where there's a lot more emphasis on kind of teams like the Rangers, like the Leafs, things like, or teams like that, where when things start to go bad, even for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, it gets really emphasized. And, and then, we talk about it because it's like, especially when all 3 of us and a lot of other people that, watch hockey, cover hockey, had the Rangers doing so well, and to see them kind of this far down in the standings, it's a little shocking. But I mean, they're 2 points out now of the Sens for the second wild card and winning tonight. So, good chance after tonight, they're pretty much in the same spot. And apparently they're very hot on trying to get JT Miller out of Vancouver, which, depending on how that trade looks, or if it ever, comes to fruition, that really changes a lot of what happens. Shesterkin went pretty much on a cold streak when the team did. He got hurt. So I think the little rest that he got has kind of helped them and helped himself, because he's kind of turned it around since kind of, the start of the calendar year is when they started kind of stringing some wins together. So it's kind of a team that's dangerous, when you look into the West, like when you see the Avs where they're sitting. This is another team where it's just like, you win your division, you get to play the Rangers, possibly, because, how well the other metropolitan teams are doing. It's even hard for them to maybe even catch up ground. But again, depending on what they do, because Drury seems to kind of be pretty quick to kind of fix his roster when he needs to, could be a pretty dangerous team if they kind of hold this on and kind of keep going in a positive direction.
You brought up Shesterkin kind of going cold and then injury and then coming back and being hot. I think that's maybe where a lot of this blowing kind of retooling came from back in mid-November from Drury. Was without Shesterkin, that showed how flawed this team is. And obviously when he's on, he's the type of goalie that just masks everything there. So I think it's one where obviously the Rangers are going to ride this. The fans are going to be just parading around now that they're winning again. But I think Drury saw the writing on the wall and knows that this roster is good enough, like should be a top 8 team in the Eastern Conference, but they're not good enough for a deep playoff run outside of Shesterkin going God mode. And that's probably, I think that's where a lot of the trade talk around them still stems from, is that Drury now knows that there's such big holes in this roster and he needs to fix them before they become a true cup contender.
It's kind of the way they've always been too, right? They always rode Lundqvist, I would say, when he got hot, they were really good, and kind of seems to be the same way it is now. Like they've always had like decent rosters, but it's never been one that's been like truly scary outside kind of their crease. I don't think, anyways.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 skaters outside there that you're really scared of, but nothing that teams aren't like, oh, we can match and match. Like we match up these guys to these guys and all that. It's like it's again outside of Panarin up front, they weren't really doing much offensively in 2024 there. So, you guys have anything more to add on the Rangers, or are we kind of putting them on the back burner till probably the trade deadline when they start making more noise?
I'm interested to see what they do from now until then, because like it really seems like they want Miller bad. And I don't know what that trade looks like from all the rumors that has been out, like what they have to give up from that roster, because it seems to be a different kind of package every time, but they seem to keep going back to it.
With everything I'm hearing, I think it's just a matter of time before Miller ends up in the Metropolitan. I think that's where he's going to land, is somewhere in that division. So,
yeah.
Flip side of the Rangers and how they've kind of toiled all season, a team that honestly we thought was going to be in the position that the Rangers are in, the Capitals, kind of surprised everyone this year, and they're now the top of the league. And boys, they're doing this like on just like good team play, because Dylan Strome leads the team with like 46 points. I think he's just under a point a game. They don't like Ovi's obviously at the start of the year was just scoring like a madman, but they don't have that one guy going out there and just lighting the lamp. They just have a bunch of guys producing consistently. And you have Logan Thompson, who's quietly been maybe the second best goalie in the league behind Connor Hellebuck this year. I mean, like, I'll just throw the question, like, has Washington just shown us over the last 3-4 seasons how a proper retooling of a roster works?
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing about them this year, and you mentioned, Brock, about them not having a game breaker, is each and every night, it seems to be, it's not a worry of who's gonna kind of pull their weight. They're getting help from all across the board. McMichael, Protas, Tom Wilson's having a great year. On the back end, John Carlson's still been a horse back there for them, amongst the rest of the band. But they've absolutely kind of rejuvenated from what they were last season, where it was, I've said it probably 4 times and I'll say it again, the worst team to ever make the playoffs. But they've come back with I don't want to say a vengeance, but a purpose this year, and who they are, and maybe why they did get there last year. At this point in the season, I don't see how anybody, Spencer Carberry is the Jack Adams winner. Like, he is head and shoulders above anybody else this year. And there's lots of guys that have put up a good case, but nobody kind of writes the one that he's written right now. I don't know if I could say the Capitals being a contender yet, because I do think they're kind of hitting the right stride and everybody's kind of playing well right now. But I think, and looping back to your game breaker point there, Brock, I think without that, I'm not sure how deep they can go come April, but I certainly think they're going to be a tough out for somebody who is a contender. Like, this team is capable of going on a run, but I'm not sure if I believe in it yet, or if it's just more of a Cinderella season right now.
Yeah, Trev made some pretty good points there, I think, especially, and you too, Brock, when like the main thing with the retool, like this is basically how it's done, but it has to work out. You have to bring in the right guys. And I think all of us were very skeptical when they brought in, PLD, because you never really know what you're going to get with that guy. So far it's worked. And we've seen this happen before in other places too, basically other than LA. Like, he's kind of turned it on for a bit and then it fades off. He's only in LA for a year. He's already 2 points behind what he got in 82 games last year. So maybe he woke up. Like, that's a story that'll be told, I think, in a year 2, year 3 of his Capitals tenure. But for now, it's working. Getting Chychrun and Matt Wall was huge, I think, for this team. Chychrun more offensively. Wall's a really good defensive defenseman. It's kind of really solidified that. And then, Logan Thompson, man, like how this guy, he didn't even get a call from Team Canada for the Four Nations. Like, not even a call to say, we're not even considering you, or sorry, you just missed the cut. And this guy, I think I heard the stat today, he's gotten 42 of a possible 50 points when starting a game for the team this year.
He's got like 22 wins.
What's that?
He's got 22 wins, I believe.
So okay,
44.
44 plus, I think, a couple OT lot. Oh, sorry. So it's 47 points. Sorry. And so 22, 2 and 3 so far in his Capitals tenure. Like, I don't know if he was kind of like, if he kind of was one of those guys that needed a fresh start away from Vegas, but like, what a get for them, because he's been awesome. I don't know how he doesn't even get considered for the Four Nations, because he's clearly the best goalie that Canada has right now. Just like, you can talk about being on a team that's good, but I mean, no one expected this from the Caps going in. So I don't know. I think it's a bit of both. It's been kind of a treat to be this wrong about a team, because it's by committee. You have 8 guys that have 30 points this year, and none are really like lighting it up. It's just kind of everyone's pulling their weight. So I agree with that. And the Jack Adams, I think his biggest contention for the Jack Adams is also in the Metro division with Columbus's coach. I'm having a mind fart here.
Dean Evison,
yeah. Thanks. I think, I think those two guys probably be leading it, but Carberry's found a way to like drag that awful team into the playoffs last year and then turn them into a league best team.
Yeah, it's, I want to go back to that game breaker point. You even go and look at their prospects. Like, they have that, however the fuck, I'm going to butcher this name, but that Ivan Miroshnichenko.
Miroshnichenko, I think.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
I nailed something there. Fuck. But really, like, outside of their, like, even him, like, he's been their, I think, their highest drafted first rounder, or the most recent one, that Tarek Parasek kid. But I don't really think they channel out to be true game breakers. They just probably good top 6, middle 6 forwards if they pan out. If you're a Caps fan and you're looking for that game breaker within the next few years, you got to look at Andrew Crystal. Like, he has the skill to do it. Everyone passed on him in the draft because of his size and how, he probably tends to get into perimeter play at times, but his vision is unreal. And you have guys on that roster that are just willing to go to the net in the dirty areas. He's the type of guy that can make those guys even better. And bring it to Hockey Canada again. Crystal wasn't selected for the World Juniors, and they needed offense. And the stats he's putting up since being traded to Spokane are just insane. He's averaging like 5 points a game. But it's just, again, it's that Logan Thompson where last year, I think he's just dealt with some injuries since arriving on the scene in Vegas. Like, he never really got a strong footing after his first real good season there. And he's finally he's been healthy this season. He's found just stability, and he's showing that he can be a true top goalie in this league. And honestly, I don't want a guy to get hurt, but honestly, I wouldn't mind if one of Hill, Binnington, or Montembeault maybe caught an injury just in the lead up to the Four Nations, because that allows them to bring on Logan Thompson there to that roster. The action is ramping up for the NFL playoffs. You can get on this action at DraftKings, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NFL. Scoring big matters most in the playoffs, and with DraftKings, you can score big too. Bet on game lines, passing or receiving props, or a simple TD score. It's easy. Go to DraftKings app, choose your game, and select who you think will score a touchdown. Be the first scorer, or have multiple TDs. Plus, if you're a first-time customer, there's a bonus. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when they bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
I just want to jump back. Kind of wanted to make a little point about Spencer Carberry again. I've been seeing clips on the Capitals Instagram page, post game in their wins in the dressing room. And one thing that I really like about his post game speeches in the locker room, and this was a big thing that I really kind of just an underrated thing that I liked growing up playing minor hockey that a coach would do. But if you listen to these clips on the Capitals Instagram, Carberry goes along and he highlights, he picks out specific guys in the room and he picks out 3 to 5 plays of the game and of individual points that he liked. He'll say, somebody had a big block on the penalty kill, or Logan Thompson had a huge save that really was the turning point, or a big goal from Ovechkin or whomever. He goes around and he highlights little individual plays from the game. I've experienced that a little bit growing up playing minor hockey. I can't stress enough what that does for a self boost and a morale boost too. Being able to just highlight little plays like that, even if it's not a goal, any little part of the game that just kind of helps the team win, makes you feel good about yourself, makes you feel, happy for your teammates too, because, they're playing a big game and you want to play for them kind of deal. I don't know if I'm getting that point across very well, but it's a little thing I noticed in his post-game clips. He's highlighting little plays throughout the game. He's going around the room and he's pointing individually at the guys who made that little play that kind of just keeps the team rolling, keeps the ball rolling. And I think, for a coach like that, you want to come back the next night and you want to make more of those plays. You want to make and just keep the team, on the accelerator kind of deal.
100% on that. But you guys brought up Dean Evanson. Switch over to his team here. The Blue Jackets, probably if they're not the surprise, like them and Washington have to be the two teams that just everyone got wrong this year because just of how well they're doing. And I think the fact that Columbus is doing it and their goaltending has not been the greatest. Like Elvis Merzlikins has a 2.99 goals against, which basically say he's letting in 3 goals a game. So that's pretty tough in this league if you have to make sure you're scoring at least 4 every game to win. But somehow the Blue Jackets are doing it, and it's surprising. Honestly, it's just adding a nice story to what's been a pretty eventful first half of the season in the Eastern Conference so far.
Zach Werenski.
He's got to be the top favorite for the Norris right now.
Yeah, man. I'll you know how we are. We'll stroke Makar all the time, right? But it's kind of hard to deny what Werenski's doing with this team. And I don't really feel like, people talk about him because just kind of what he's done, 52 points in 48 games and that stuff. I still don't really feel like even this year he gets a lot of praise for what he does because being in Columbus is kind of under the radar and whatnot. And he kind of seems like he's a pretty quiet guy. Like there's not a lot of not highlights, but doesn't really say a lot in interviews, media wise, things like that. He kind of just goes about his business. And, he's been a really good player for some time. I think he's dealt with a bit of injuries lately too, but he seems to really enjoy playing in Columbus, and he's just putting up a stellar campaign this year, kind of like when, Columbus needed it the most, kind of between him and Marchenko. That guy's filthy too. And kind of insane to see kind of what these guys are doing with that goaltending, like you talked about, Brock. They find ways to win. They, score all these goals you don't really think is going to happen. And yeah, some of the younger guys are starting to get into the contributions too. I don't see a lot of Columbus games, but when I do, they're fairly exciting, and that's kind of different other than that one year where they kind of made that little run in the playoffs, sweeping Tampa.
Yeah, I think we're pretty close to Kirill Marchenko being a household name as well. This guy's having an underrated season, and I'll admit that I actually haven't seen him play much, but the highlights I have seen, yeah, like you say, JC, this guy is sick, and he's I think he's 23. If I'm not mistaken,
24 years old,
24.
and he's signed for the next 2 seasons after this under $4 million.
Yeah, that's a steal because he's only going to get better next year.
Yeah,
100%. This is his coming out year, and it's only going up from here. Just looping back to Dean Evanson too. I remember talking about this when he got fired from Minnesota. I kind of always. I was happy to see him get another shot in the league. I didn't feel like he was really the problem in Minnesota, but unfortunately, and like we've said many times on this show, that the coaches are the most expendable in times of struggle. So I think, bringing him in and bringing in Don Waddell, is that he's their GM, correct? Yeah. With the overhaul with Yarmo, I forget his last name, but and then obviously you kind of wonder at the start of the season which way it's going to go with the the whole unfortunate incident with Johnny Gaudreau. Is that going to kind of take a toll on this group, or is that really something to play for? And this is already a win for Columbus this season with what they've done. Nobody had them where they are right now, whether or not they make the playoffs or not. It's a win, and it's a absolute bright spot for next season, even if they don't make the playoffs. Because it seems, sorry, Braga, just one last little point there. It just seems like, and I'm sure you're going to mention this as well about, their prospects are really starting to blossom here, and they've had a lot, or have a lot in the system that we've been kind of waiting on, and it's starting to come to fruition.
It's they're basically showing their fans hope for the immediate future here. Like, it's no longer, you look at our shiny prospects that are going to come save this franchise. It's no, these younger guys are now here, and they are starting to learn the game at the NHL level, and starting to and slowly chipping away at being impact players at this level. So that's, if they can figure out their goaltending, I wouldn't be surprised if they challenge for a top 3 Metro spot next year, if everyone takes the step that they probably should. So kind of jump to maybe some lesser exciting news in terms of teams doing really good in this division. Before we get too far, Carolina and New Jersey, we're not really going to touch on. They've been exactly kind of where we all thought they would be, in that top 3 spot, just humming along. Like, I don't think we really need to say much on those two teams until closer to the deadline, and just see what they add for a deep playoff run. So
the 2 other teams that are trying to get Miller too.
Yeah.
New Jersey's kind of floundering a little bit this last bit, but not like, I don't really see too big of a fall from them. Though Markstrom's out 4 to 6.
Yeah, that's why they got Allen.
Yeah, but no, there's not much to talk about with them. Just wanted to bring that up.
We'll touch quick on the New York Islanders. I mean, this is a team that either needs to try to find some way to do a Capitals retool, or completely blow this thing up, because right now it just doesn't look good. I don't know if you guys have much to say about the situation on Long Island, but I just said Columbus is selling hope, and the Islanders are basically hopeless.
Is there a team in the NHL that you guys find more irrelevant than the New York Islanders? Like, when you see them on the schedule of a game that you could watch, like, do you even really care about tuning into them? Like,
it was Arizona.
They don't really do anything that, just like, when I see them playing, I'm just like, I'm going to tune into this game. It really doesn't matter who they're playing. I think they need a shakeup at the top. I think it's time to turn the reins over. I like what they did hiring Patty Waugh, but even then, like, I'm still not excited about this team. I think they've got to make some turnover here, because even before, like, I was looking at the notes for today, I didn't even realize actually how far down they were, because I don't pay attention to them that much. That's kind of my fault, but there's really nothing about them. Like, I thought Sorokin was going to be like kind of like a, Vezina guy, but the team's just not good enough, and he hasn't been good enough either. So yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts on the Islanders. I don't really have much other than like irrelevancy.
I've been seeing a lot of stuff in the last couple of weeks, just kind of about how it's sort of too bad that Barzal has been the victim of a defensive system his entire career, and maybe limited his ceiling. We've still seen the player that he was always destined to be, a fast skater that loves to hang on to the puck and wait. Like, his patience is second to none. We've always known that, to make the right play, but he is yet to offensively do better than his rookie season. And and it's in large part of how the Islanders system has been his entire career there. When they brought in Bo Horvat, I remember I was discussing about how that's maybe the offensive boost that they could have used, and it really seems like he's just kind of fallen into the death trap as well. Like, yeah, Horvat's put up some goals and stuff for them, but I don't think he's sort of changed the identity that we thought he might be, that we thought that, or that a lot of people thought that New York was missing in a goal scorer. So, I mean, the other thing about the Islanders too, that I just want to mention too, is like, I think the last couple of years, people really seem to cling on to this idea that the Islanders were sneaky, that everybody was sleeping on them. But in reality, it was just a reminisce on their back-to-back trips to the conference finals, that they were still that same team because a lot of the same players were still there. And I've kind of felt like where they are now is what they have been for like the last 3 years, but it's just actually finally showing in the stand-ins now.
Since Lou got there, they've only been a defensive first-minded team. And yeah, like Barzal's never really been allowed to run like the horse he is. And it's exactly, you guys nailed it. They need a big shakeup, and unfortunately, they don't really have a lot coming up that's going to change too much. So, getting shorter on
like electrifying to play with Barzal. Like, they don't have any kind of what Trav was saying. He's been a victim of the system there. They don't have someone that can really keep up with him that way to like help him produce more points.
No, he needs Cole Eiserman there fast.
Oh yeah,
but running short on time here, guys. Who I'll maybe let you each take one here. Pittsburgh and Philly. Both teams are kind of just toiling around and hovering around a wild card spot, sort of, kind of hovering around the basement of the East. Just, you guys have any quick thoughts on those teams? Like, is this kind of where we should have expected each of them based on the rosters that they actually put forward this year?
I'll go for Philly here. They're right where I thought they would be. They're still battling. They're in that like 7 or 8 team mix for the wild card there. Again, just another one of those teams that I mentioned earlier in the episode that they go on a run. They could solidify themselves for April. So they've struggled at times during the season, but they've been exactly, probably amongst everybody in that grouping, have been exactly who I thought they would be. I love Torts. Still love what he's doing there. He's getting the most out of those guys. They're far from the prettiest team on paper, but yeah, there's loopholes in Philly for sure. I don't have much other than, but I don't think you can count them out either. Especially not with Torts there and pushing them. There's a lot of talent in that lineup that's sort of untapped or has been coming up in the last year or two. So, they could very easily be a team to go on a run here and get into a wild card spot. I don't see them being anything more than that, but that would probably already be exceeding expectations anyways.
Yeah. I just want to say on Philly, I love Torts too. I think he's one of my favorite coaches in the league. Just straight up, truthful. And they need stability in net if they ever want to do anything. We've talked about it a few times. I guess that leaves me with the Pens. I think I had them like fifth in this finishing fifth in this division, so likely out of the playoffs. They're a bit worse than that this year. This is a team that I feel has just kind of is just lost in mediocrity. They're just kind of like trying to ride out the wave of their golden years of, Crosby, Malkin, Letang. And now there's reports coming out that there's maybe a fire sale, and then there's contradicting reports that there's not, which I think I said to you guys, I'm just like, I don't think Dubas is the right guy to be in charge of any sort of fire sale. I think this guy kind of got somehow of a rap of being this like golden child GM that just has never really worked out. I don't think anyways. And now look at kind of the Pens, like the goalie that he signed when he was about to be a free agent, Tristan Jarry, is now in the AHL. And they've never really, they've been trying to fill in holes here with trying to get a couple younger guys to come in with, Tomasino, Beauvillier, Cody Glass. These are just sort of mid-tier fringe kind of NHLers really at this point that doesn't move the needle for this team. I wonder kind of what they do coming in the next couple weeks, because they're only 4 points out of the second wild card, but I don't really think they're a threatening team. Friedge made an interesting point in 32 Thoughts today, they're written, that them and Buffalo have a match because Buffalo has a lot of younger players that kind of fit what the Pens want to do here, and maybe some sort of retool getting younger. I wonder, I don't know anything about it. I just wonder if they're looking to, Jarry's in the AHL, do you try to see what you could get Devin Levi for? UPL kind of takes all of the games now. Or is it more like a Jack Quinn or a Zach Benson or something more along those lines? I know the Devin Levi thing is kind of way out there. I just, how can you really have two young goalies like that if you're Buffalo? You kind of need, I think you kind of got to pick one. And I just wonder if there could be a fit there. I don't know. Giving up on a Levi would be pretty premature, but it just seems like something that should be in Pittsburgh's wheelhouse at this point.
Yeah. Go ahead, Trav.
I wonder about Dylan Cousins maybe too in that mix, because his name's been floated out for rumors.
I think they're scared because they saw what happened with Tage Thompson. They don't want the same to happen with Cousins, a change of scenery, and all of a sudden he explodes. It's Buffalo's in a touchy spot with all their young guys, but we'll touch on them in a later episode coming up here too. Yeah, you guys nailed both those guys. I mean, they're just toiling away. Pittsburgh's kind of on the wrong side of the coin, and Philly's on the right side, just working their way up slowly and just have to plug a few holes. But there are going to be two teams, I think, that depending if they get on a hot streak and can keep up with the wild card race, it just makes that whole race more interesting. So it'll be fun to watch. I think this division's, the way some teams have kind of bounced back after slow starts, have made it a lot more enjoyable. And obviously the Caps and the Blue Jackets are just really good stories right now. But that's all we got this week. Tune in next week, everyone. We'll touch on the Central Division and see what's all happening there, and then move to the Atlantic to wrap things up the following episode. So thanks for tuning in. Catch you all next week.